I am a romance author who's written over 100 books, and today I'll be reacting to the latest Jack Edwards video. Why am I going to react to it? Because he posted a video that had in the thumbnail, romance novel fans are under fire for being too horny for hockey players. And as a person who's written like 30 sports romances, I needed to react to this. So let's do this.
Sometimes book talk drama genuinely has a better plot than the books Book Talk recommends.
Okay, so this is great. This means that I don't actually have to watch Book Talk. I don't have to watch TikTok. I delete the app because it is so addictive. But if I have someone who tells me all the drama, then why even go there, right?
And I think we should unpack that. Romance novel fans are under fire for being too horny for hockey players. Yeah.
Okay. It's actually from the Rolling Stone article this is happening. This is going to be good.
Here we go again. Let's talk about it. Specifically, today we're going to be talking about these two books. This is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace and Pucking Around by Emily
I write the football romance. This is hockey romance. But we'll see if there's some parallels.
Rath. For the past week, I have been balls deep in...
Balls deep. He's been balls deep.
Hockey, romance, smut. Basically trying desperately to understand the popularity of these books. And I wanted to talk about that. This one here is a New York Times bestseller. I think it was on the chart between February and August this year. And I have to say, when I was on holiday this summer, literally every other person was reading Icebreaker by Hannah.
Okay, so how many of you have read Icebreakers? Because I see it on the charts all the time. I don't get hockey romance because I'm from the Bahamas and there's no ice. And I live in Los Angeles, so there's no ice. But how many of you guys have actually read this?
Hannah Grace. This book here has also seen a lot of popularity. This is 800 pages long. That is longer than Crime and Punishment, East of Eden, Dune, Harry Potter, Great Expectations. Like, I don't have that much to say about anything. I love reading, but is it ever that serious? I think I have a copy of the Bible that is just as girthy.
That's 2 books. 800, that's actually more than 2 books. That's like 3 books. But hey, maybe she's written in 3 parts.
As this book. Let's not start saying the word girthy now, but this has become a kind of holy scripture for a lot of Book Talk hockey fans. So of course I was intrigued, and you know, at this point I kind of wish I hadn't been. I need to start minding my own damn business. This one even has like a glossary at the front of like the key characters, some terms, Finnish words and phrases. Literally, it's like a Lord of the Rings book. Tolkien walks, so Emily...
Oh my god! So I really never like picked up a hockey book. I've never once ever thought to put that much detail into a romance book. Seriously, maybe I should. I don't know. If you guys read my books, tell me whether or not I should.
Rath could crawl. And actually, since hockey smut books love a punny title, Lord of the Rinks could be good. Emily Rath, consider it. I'm just putting it out there. You can have that one for free. The books in this series are called...
I got no punny titles, not for my sports romances. Although, I mean, her best bad decision isn't a pun, but that's my favorite title. It's a playoff of, you know, but no puns for me.
Called Pucking Around, Pucking Wild, and Pucking Ever After. Whatever that means. That is just so fantastically unserious. I wish I was making this up, but I'm not. This is real. We have strayed.
Oh, so the question now we should be asking ourselves is, does he actually enjoy this or not? Because he said he would prefer not to dive into it, but he did dive into it. Did he actually like it? Does he, like, I've seen him read other romances before, and sometimes he had to, like, I think his original, like, readings of, like, you know, the smutty romances, I think he really enjoyed it. So we'll see what happens this time.
So far from God, none of these words are in the Bible. This is like 800 pages of just pure erotica and filth. It's an 800-page porno. This would kill a Victorian child. Just one page of it would be enough to like wipe them out. When I was reading this on the subway...
Okay, he's selling it really hard. Like, I can't imagine. It's 800 pages. It's not 800 pages of smut. That's not the way this stuff works. We'll see what happens.
I had to like read it like this so that the people either side of me couldn't see the words that were on the pages.
God bless his innocent little mind, right?
Right, here's one example. Jake's mouth is around my dick and I'm dead. This is death and I've died. It must be heaven because Rachel is here too. They're both on their knees and she's coaching him through how to suck me like a champion. Cup his balls, baby. You know how you like it. Give him a little squeeze. Like, do you see why I was...
Okay, that's spicy. That is spicy. That's maybe a 3-person scene. I did not realize there was a little menage or menage going on in here.
Trying to hide this book. You can open this book on any random page.
Although, didn't he choose the really the most risque part? I mean, didn't he do that? Cherry picked? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the entire thing is just smut. But God bless the author if that's the case.
And you will find something insane. But before I continue talking about these two books, the general appeal of hockey romance and also the scandals, the hot water that they have found themselves in, I'm delighted to let you know that today's video is very kindly brought to you by Book of the Month. My favorite.
I'll leave that part in there, but I'll skip ahead, so we'll see what happens here.
So let's talk about BookTok, hockey books, and what the appeal of these is, in my opinion.
What is the appeal of this? So he is an intellectual. He reads a lot of smarty books, right? Books that I read for pleasure. He reads to learn and feel stuff intellectually. I think at one point he said he likes being depressed or some craziness like that. So this is a real turn because, of course, romance is about fun. So let's see what happens.
What is it that's making these books so fucking popular? Well, first and foremost, #BookTok has 200 billion views. This book alone has 215 million views just under the hashtag Hannah Grace. Just to give you an idea of the sheer scale of this. So you can see how huge these books are. According to Circana Bookscan, which tracks print sales, more than 100 authors with large BookTok followings drove $760 million in sales in 2022.
And you know how much I accounted for that? About 10,000. Yep, I tried BookTok. It did not love me. So YouTube, I love you, YouTube.
60% increase from 2021. And this book is like a brick. You could build a very large house with all of the copies of books this has sold. So why do I think that hockey books in particular have seen so much success? I think first and foremost it's because they build upon the classic jock archetype that we see throughout media. High School Musical, Euphoria, She's the Man, even Monsters University. The jock character stereotype is the conventionally attractive, sporty guy, probably captain of the football team, and traditionally they would have been set up as the opposition of the nerd. And the nerd, by contrast, would be intelligent and emotional, whereas the jock is just hot. Now.
Okay, yes. So yes, I can tell you right now that I have used that a little bit. I have gone to that nerd jock thing, and that is what people love. So far he's gotten it, but there has to be more than just that. I mean, you could make a jock and nerd thing, and it won't sell. So there's got to be more to it than just that. Let's see if he gets it.
Now, the development of this, I think we're seeing now, is the attractive, popular, sporty dude actually also has a vulnerable side. He has feelings. The men in these books are given license to have emotions and to express them. They're able to be vulnerable in an industry where actually often they aren't really.
Okay, so here's an actual interesting point. So I do this thing where I write both male-female and male-male romances. And he's talking about giving licenses for people to feel things. So this is the male-male version of my book. And this is the male-female version of this book. Now, what I actually do is I write in such a way that both characters actually feel something so that it is not just limited to one character. But he's making the argument that the male character is getting the chance to feel stuff because of that.
Research by Katie Crawford found that a culture of silence in men's hockey is threatening players' mental health. But in these novels, the men do open up and they do talk honestly about their feelings. And I think that is a hugely appealing quality for the readers of these books. Steph Driver, who is a writer for Broad Street Hockey, explained the particular appeal of hockey as a sport for the romance genre. She says, "I think hockey players really lend themselves to be fictionalized because they are very team-focused and don't like to have the spotlight on them, so we don't know much about them as individuals compared to other sports. We know what we see on social media, and that's really it. They're not celebrities except for one or two of them, and they're like the everyman, but they are."
Okay, that's interesting, because like football is another sport romance genre, and like a big part of that, there's still the team aspect of it, right? But the kind of showy Deion Sanders sort of football player is a thing. It happens a lot. Like the cocky bad boy football player is a popular trope within the football sports romances. And maybe it's not the case in hockey. I think I did read one hockey thing, and yeah, they were humble guys. Okay. I mean, I'm learning something.
Are big and strong, and they hit people, and they are loyal. So I think what she's kind of getting at is that we're in this setting, which is a highly emotional environment. These are people who have dedicated their lives to a sport, and in this sport, their mental and physical well-being affects how well they can perform and their ability to perform. There's also the team dynamic. You know, this is a group of people who kind of rely on each other for group success through individual effort.
Okay, so he's talking like sport romance in general versus other types of romance.
There's a lot of pressure on the individual, but also on the team. And I think that creates fascinating dynamics to write about. In this sport, as with any sport, there are moments of winning and there are moments of losing. And that provides itself very well to creating a plot and to creating tension, to creating stakes, I suppose. And that's done in a very overt way because they quite literally win or lose the match.
What he didn't mention is that it also allows for highs and lows, because you can't just have them always winning. If you're writing this sort of emotional sort of sports romance, you need to have moments when they're up and you need to have moments when they're down, and sports lends itself perfectly to that because, hey, they're, you know, a great sports romance where the focus is sports and not just the relationship is at this point they're doing well, and then this point they're doing badly, and if you're smart, in the end they're doing well.
Kind of reminds me of that one scene in Riverdale.
I dropped out in the 4th grade to run drugs to support my nana.
That means you haven't known the triumphs and defeats, the epic highs and lows of high school football.
Except this time it's hockey. And Dina Gray, who is another hockey romance writer,
highs and lows,
noted that hockey romances aren't just for die-hard fans of the sport either. A large number of readers picking up hockey romances don't have much experience watching the sport. So I think part of the appeal is the feeling like this is a new world that they are getting to explore. So
I don't watch hockey. I barely watch football. I'm a basketball fan, but I know football extremely well. The question is, after this, is he going to convince me to write hockey romances instead, to learn about hockey and write about hockey romances?
There's an element of escapism too, and when the stakes are high, that naturally facilitates a lot of drama and peaks and troughs in the narrative, which is perfect for, you guessed it, a book plot. And then we have the romance element. We already have this desirable jock figure. Now we need a character who will complement them, and often a character who the reader is meant to maybe see themselves in. And I think this is demonstrated best in Icebreaker. I mean, you can even see it just from the cover, in which the big, bulky hockey player, like you can see he's physically taking up a lot of space. He physically looms large over the teeny tiny ice skater that he falls in love with. And we are told so many times in both of these books how teeny tiny the protagonist is, that they're so small. You could put them in your pocket. They're just so tiny. If they turn to the side, they'll just disappear. You won't be able to see them. Like they're just so teeny tiny and small. In this world, you also have the kind of juxtaposition of a pretty violent, aggressive sport alongside a delicate, elegant, graceful sport.
Opposites attract, yes. I don't know about always being teeny tiny, but yeah, you want the female, the the softer character has to be the more relatable character, because if you're talking like male romances, it's helpful to have a softer character and a more traditionally male character. And yes, the softer character is supposed to be the more relatable character.
Sport, where she's a figure skater. So from a storytelling perspective, it sets up an interesting contrast. And the whole point of juxtaposition, of putting two things that seem opposites.
See, I said opposites attract. He said juxtaposition. He's an intellectual. I'm just a romance author. I don't know this stuff.
Together is that it encourages us to think about what makes them different, but also what makes them the same. What are the areas of tension, of conflict, but also at what points are they very compatible? And I think the thing that makes these books appeal to modern audiences is that this isn't the classic, like, Super Mario saving Princess Peach from Bowser's Castle kind of situation. Like, these aren't damsels in distress, desperately crying out for a hero, for someone to come and free Rapunzel from her tower. Instead, the women in these novels are always strong-willed, self-assured, self-motivated. They have their own goals and dreams and ambitions. They usually have their own careers. In Pucking Around, the main character is a successful doctor who is incredibly driven and determined within her own career. And in Icebreaker, we have a figure skater who knows exactly where she wants to be and will do anything in order to get there.
See, now, this is why I actually enjoy him, because he takes books very seriously. Like, he does a great job of analyzing what he sees in books and explaining it to others. That's more analysis of a romance that I've ever seen in my life. And I think it's accurate. I think he does a great job of, like, explaining that to us.
Characters know themselves and are assertive and confident and unashamedly and unabashedly so. And I think that is...
Unabashedly. I can't even use unabashedly in my books because it's too much of a word, but Jack, he can pull off unabashedly.
Pretty fundamental and foundational to these novels. And also
all these words, foundational, oh my God, just, if I could.
To the element of romance, because these women are not incomplete people looking for someone to come and save them. Instead, they are whole, fully formed adult women who know exactly who they are, and so then a partner just comes and complements them and satisfies them. They are two whole beings joining together to complement each other rather than being like two halves of one whole, if that makes sense.
See, that's interesting, because there has been a shift, even over the past 10 years that I've been writing, that there was a time when what is it, Calgon, Take Me Away type of books were very popular, where there's a guy that comes, and I'm assuming in some genres it still is, where there's a guy comes and he rescues her from the life they had, like the classic Cinderella story. But yes, there has been a shift to the softer character being more full. But honestly, I love stories about people who complete each other. It's not that the softer character needs the harder character in order to be whole. It's like together they make greater than the sum of their parts. So that's slightly different than what he's saying, I think.
I think that's empowering. And the other thing, which I guess also is empowering, is that these books are incredibly sex positive. There's no shame in desire. There's no dismissal of lust and fetishes. It gives people permission to be sexual without being defined by their sexuality. It allows people to have sex, have casual sex, without being dismissed or demeaned as a slut. Sex is just seen as a pleasure activity, and I think that's what people want to read about. Sometimes.
And when you put it in juxtaposition of other characters in the stories that might be shaming them for example, like in my latest book, in the male-female version, the female is a female assistant coach for the NFL, and her boss is this, old fogey dude who has impressions about what a woman are, and his big thing is, you just want to have sex with the players. So when you put the casual, the modern way of thinking about sex, and compared to the that sort of traditional shaming sort of way, it also creates empathy for the character, and also it makes the story more interesting.
Sometimes they want to read 800 pages of it. And the thing is, we know that sex sells. According to Bookscan, the 50 Shades of Grey series has sold around 35 million books across the series. And I think that the popularity of 50 Shades of Grey proved to the publishing industry that it was worth investing in stories where people have sex without shame. Yeah. Sex without shame also sells. So to recap, I think those are the reasons that hockey...
Yeah, what I wrote changed after 50 Shades of Grey. I was publishing stuff beforehand, but after that came out, that was such a phenomena. I was writing erotica at the time, and it shifted, like in my group of very successful erotica authors, we all kind of like gravitated to something slightly different because of the success of that book. And I don't think it's changed. I think after that book, even the romance books, like the traditional romance books, like if you go to the charts now on Amazon, you'll see that like when you read the book, they're really spicy. And I think a lot of that change has happened because of 50 Shades.
Romance books are so popular. Firstly, escapism for non-hockey fans and hockey fans alike. Secondly, the high stakes of a competitive environment. 3, drawing upon the jock archetype, but expanding it with emotional capacity. 4, having a self-assured, confident female protagonist who does not merely exist as an extension of a man. And 5, because sex sells, especially when it does not seek to objectify. So, all in all,
I mean, yes, Jack, yes, 100% what you said is absolutely true. But I mean, I think that's also true about a lot of romance styles. I favor sports romances and you know, football as opposed to hockey. But I think those are the things that go into a romance, a lot of romances. So in terms of why hockey in particular...
I understand the appeal. I hope that kind of helps to explain it a little bit more. And on a fundamental level, I have respect for this genre. And it's undeniably a huge pillar in the book industry right now, which is really, really important. I always say this, but even if a genre isn't for you, I think we can still respect how it contributes to the ecosystem of publishing, because it means that if money is being pumped into the industry that we love, we get the books that we love. And the beauty of it is, if it doesn't appeal to you, you don't have to read it, right? I do think it's also important to recognize the way that often things that appeal most primarily to a female audience are often dismissed as being superficial or frivolous or silly, and that is on, altogether now, misogyny. And I think...
Yes, it is. As a male romance writer, I can say 100%. I've never gotten it. Like before my life as a writer, I was a producer and a movie director. And I was talking to a friend at a Halloween Christmas party recently, how like the DP, the director of photography, like the number 2 on the set, like 10 years or back in 2000 when I directed my movie, was a woman. And the person whose party it was a director of photography. And he was like shocked by that because he was in school at the time and his professor actually said this to his class that had women in it. His professor of director of photography said, perhaps you women could check out something like the camera crew, because no one is going to hire you because you're a woman. The male professor of this dude's class said that to the women in his class. And this was a few years after I had hired a woman to be director of photography on the movie I directed. So, misogyny much? I saw Barbie recently. I have thoughts, but that's not a part of this video. Men suck, anyway.
It's incredibly ignorant to dismiss these books as unimportant just because they don't appeal to you, for example, when they are having such roaring success elsewhere. So firstly, let's just let people enjoy what they want to enjoy. But having said all of that, I also do want to talk about these 2 books specifically. On a craft level, I want to review these books just as I would with any other book. So this is my completely subjective review, but let's start with Icebreaker. In this novel, a mishap in the facilities of the University of California means that the figure skating team now have to train alongside the ice hockey team. They have to share a ring. When Anastasia's skating partner gets injured, she recruits the help of Nate, the captain of the hockey team. And
when I finish books, I always choose like a book to research to figure out like what I should write next and what's popular and stuff like that. I do remember going over this book. I didn't read it, but I like did more than just scan through it.
Anastasia just hates Snape at the beginning of the book in a way that I don't know was altogether rational or understandable. Like, the reasons are a little flimsy, but
Enemies to lovers.
this is an enemies to lovers book, and you guys know that is my least favorite trope, because I always find it hard to believe that anyone hates someone as much as these people do for not a lot of reason. I always just find enemies.
You know what? Okay, so the most recent enemies to lovers one I did, the which one was it? It's book 2 in my series, so like Asking for Trouble and My Weakness. The person hated the other person because in high school, it's a new adult romance. In high school, they were picked on by football players. So they hated football players. So they don't necessarily have to be like an enemy of the person. They could be an enemy of what they represent. So, you know.
Lovers a little bit predictable, but having said that, I do know that some people say they find comfort in an enemies to lovers romance because they know that it's leading to an inevitable trajectory, which is love. So there's something satisfying and comforting about that. I get it. Throughout the book, we meet all of their friends. Each of them has their own kind of like friend group. And while I did find the dynamics between the characters pretty fun, I just felt like there were too many of them. Too many peripheral characters that could easily have been collapsed into about half the number. Like,
now, there's a reason for that, Jack, which you might or might not mention. We authors tend to do that so that we have characters to create book 2s off of, and book 3s and book 4s and book 5s. You want to introduce the family of characters in the first book so that you can go and write number 2 and stuff like that, and you're already familiar with the characters.
we could easily combine a lot of the characters into just one character, and it would serve kind of the same focus. I think this kind of read like it was being set up for a TV show, kind of Euphoria vibes, which works on a TV show when you can dedicate a whole episode to exploring like one character's backstory, but in this book it would kind of slow down the pace, and that's why these things exist as different mediums. So I feel like it needed less characters. One thing I did think was cool was the way that it explored consent, the way that it discussed consent. There is one sex scene in this book that I will never ever unsee. Like on my dying day, that will still be etched on my eyeballs, because these two characters have sex in an Uber. In the back of an Uber, while it is driving, while their friends are in the car. That has got to kill your Uber rating. Like when they said Uber X, I didn't know they meant Uber X rated. When they said, do you want an Uber XL? I did not know that's what they meant. When they said, do you want to share your ride? I didn't realize I'd be sharing people riding. I'm in private, girl. The other thing I just could not overcome is the number of times the term ocean eyes is used in this book.
I might have to pick that up. I've never used ocean eyes. You're always trying to figure out different ways to like describe people's eyes and whatever stuff. Ocean eyes I've never said. Maybe I'll use that.
The chokehold that ocean eyes as a term has over Miss Hannah Grace. Let it go. Let's find a synonym, please. For the love of God. Ocean eyes was mentioned so many times, I was drowning in it. If you took a shot for every time ocean eyes is mentioned in this book, you'd be underwater. I beg you. Romance writers in general, please.
What?
Find another way to refer to blue eyes. Please, no more. Anyways, I thought the chemistry between these characters was
Fine, Jack. Fine. We'll think of something else.
great, and eventually did become quite convincing, and it was hot. It was sexy. There, I said it. And I will warn you that because obviously this is a lot of pages to like describe a lot of sex, there's a lot of dirty talk that happens between these characters, which leads me on to talking about pucking around. This is about a woman who gets a job as a doctor for a hockey team. But a few months before, she had this wild, crazy one-night stand, best night of her life, with a guy who turns out to be on the hockey team. So,
okay, that's a trope on its own. I've used that trope. I've used that trope in at least one sports romance. It's the same with Her Best Bad Decision. One thing is a guy, and Her Best Bad Decision is a male female romance, and this guy is in Japan and he has sex with someone in a spa in Japan, and it turns out to be the owner of the team who just hired him to be the star of the team in Portland. So that's such a trope. Anyway.
They reunite, she's falling for him, but at the same time, she's also falling for a man on the hockey team as well, who is Finnish. And trust me, he does make her Finnish multiple times. Oh, and she's also in love with the equipment manager, who happens to have a penis piercing. And so instead of trying to pick between them, like that one Hannah Montana episode, she just decides to take all of them. Everything, everywhere.
Oh, this is Menage. This is reverse harem. Okay, that's why it's 800 pages, because there's a lot of subplots to develop. Okay.
All at once. Like, double penetration is a real theme on this book. You know, when I first joined YouTube.com, I never expected that there would be now a clip of me on the internet saying the words double penetration. But here we are. Pick a job.
I also wrote reverse harem, MMF specifically. So I'm loving this.
That makes your grandparents proud, kids. Don't be a YouTuber. So this is a verse harem book, or harem, depending on what side of the Atlantic you live on. It is about a woman with 3 men who basically just worship the ground she walks on, and occasionally they hook up too. My issue with this book is that
You gotta love that, okay? The MMF. I love me some MMF. I've written like 11 of them. I would have kept writing them if they didn't become less popular. But my guy, I love me some MMF.
was losing the plot after a while because this book doesn't have one. Every character kind of has the same rough arc and development, but the fact that the author thought this was worth 800 pages is crazy to me. I felt like every character just took themselves too seriously, and after a while, they could shred cheese because they were grating on me. Also, no one just says anything in this book. Not because they don't speak. Oh no, they do plenty. They do plenty of that. They're very vocal, shall we say. What I mean is that the word said is replaced a lot of times with other alternative verbs. It's always, I hissed, I growled, I mumbled, I murmured. And actually one...
Yeah. That's like a goal of mine. I'm always trying to figure out every other way I could say said but said.
One BookTok creator called Mari did God's work and noted the number of times that each of these words is used. So I actually have a numerical demonstration. Thank you, Mari. While said is used only 119 times in this book, growl is used 138 times, which is a lot of growling, can I just say. This is like a tiger's enclosure in this book. That's how much growling is going on. Also, mutter is used 244 times. I don't know when the last time I actually used the term mutter was. And also murmur is used.
Is it a juxtaposition there, Jack? Is that what that is? Did I use that correctly? I don't know.
178 times. They are muttering and murmuring all over the place. The other thing is that the main character in this book does have a bit of an I'm not like other girls complex. You know, she curses, she has piercings, she has a septum piercing, she has tattoos, you know, and she likes sex. She's like, I'm not normal. I love sex. And she also kind of shames they're called puck buddies, but basically the puck buddies are these women who fawn over the hockey players and just want to sleep with them because they are hockey players. And she kind of shames them for that. In an 800-page book, of course, there are some odd moments. The one that sticks out to me is when she throws a plate of spaghetti at a man to rile him up enough to have sex with her. Like, firstly, is that or is that not borderline abusive? And secondly, how are you so...
We don't mention the A word in romance because people like what they like. So, yeah, Jack.
So damn bad for this man that you threw spaghetti at him. And this book did cause quite the controversy because it seemed to lead some BookTok users to go absolutely feral. As the book became increasingly popular, people started to face claim certain characters. Now, the website...
I don't know what this means. I don't know what this means. Okay, this is one of the things I don't watch TikTok. He's going to help me understand.
Fan law defines the term face claim as a term for the person who a fan chooses to be the visual representation of a fictional character. And fans began to face claim one particular hockey player, Alex Wennberg. Alex Wennberg is a player for the team, the Seattle Kraken, and in response to this, the Seattle Kraken's social media team saw it as a kind of marketing opportunity, essentially. And I do want to point out at this moment that they were not the only team to do this. ESPN also notes that the Chicago Blackhawks started to feed into the BookTok thirsting as well. But we're just going to talk specifically about this one event with the Seattle Kraken. So, firstly, the Kraken changed their TikTok bio to say mostly BookTok, and they would also post these videos of Alex Wennberg like walking in a suit in slow motion with the caption,
I mean, that's a good looking dude though. That's a good looking dude. That's a good looking dude. So good for them for doing that and using him for his body. Again, I guess he's in sports, so they're already using him for his body, but you get the gist.
when you accidentally become a BookTok account, and now that's all you can post. This, I will add, has all since been deleted. Then things step up a gear when in May of this year, the Kraken invited one BookToker who had been especially vocal, shall we say.
Alex Wennberg! Baby, I mean I got 5 holes, but I got 3. And since you're so good at assisting, why don't you assist your teammates in scoring in all 3 of my holes? Hello, Alex, I know you just signed to the Seattle Kraken, but what's a sister got to do to have you crack this back? Hello.
They flew her to Seattle to come to one of the games. They gave her tickets, they got her a customized jersey that said BookTok on the nameplate on the back, and this is the kind of content that she was posting.
Tame away, what's wrong with you? Damn, I'm trying to be in between them legs. Or in between my legs. This boy's a fucking Ken doll. Baby, my kitty not used to being around this many fine men, man. That's my man! I love you! Crack my back! Crack my back! Crack my back!
I do respect the wordplay, however, this was a bit of an issue, because then drama strikes and Alex Wennberg's wife takes to Instagram. Felicia Wierenwemberg posted, "While I'm all for female empowerment..."
Okay. The marketing team should have known better. They knew what our content was. Come on now.
And especially around sex, there have been videos and comments made that have crossed the line of what it means to fancy someone and when it actually sounds pretty predatory and exploitative. With the internet, we can normalize behavior that would never be okay if we flipped the genders around. She basically said, "You are coming to my husband's place of work where he is trying to do his..."
They invited her to the place of work because of the things she did. Let's get that right, Jack.
Job that he is training for, hockey, and sexualizing him, objectifying him.
They invited him to his place of work, knowing what she did, and then she acted like she does. So yes, I hear what you're saying, Jack, but let's get it right.
Him, treating him like a piece of meat. Alex Wennberg then released his own statement saying that social media users had crossed a line by leaving vile comments on his wife's Instagram account, including on photos of their young child. He said, "I'm all for the BookTok community to write books and fiction about hockey, but the aggressive language about real-life players is too much."
Should have seen this coming. They should have seen this coming. Maybe like it's a new sort of industry and they had no idea, but honestly, man, you should have seen this coming.
It has turned into daily and weekly comments on our personal social media. This is not something we support or want our child to grow up with.
Yeah, but you invited it. I understand everyone has a choice to pull it back. No one is committed to one way of thinking for the rest of their life. But, I mean, you introduced this into your life by playing into it to make money, and now you're trying to pull back. Let's keep this all in perspective here.
All we ask is for a little respect and common sense moving forward. We can all take a joke and funny comments, but when it turns personal and into something bigger that affects our family, we need to tell you that we've had enough. The Kraken responded to this by just unfollowing all of the creators it had previously been interacting with and kind of egging on, acting as if they had not been feeding into it for marketing purposes. And then the BookToker, who, although was not directly named by either of the Wennbergs, her name was in one of the screenshots that was posted, so it was quite clearly about her. She kind of doubled down and said, no, the content that she makes is just for entertainment, and basically that they need to stop scapegoating her. And I do think that while we can't just blame one person, this definitely is something that spiraled out of control. I think no one wanted to take accountability for this. Yeah. They basically got called out for sexualizing someone at their place of work. That's embarrassing. I think a lot of people in this situation needed to take accountability for the fact that things went too far, even if that was not the original intention. Even if you think that something is harmless, the second you are told by someone that it is harmful to them, that's when you just have to call it a day. In response to all of this, Pucking Around author Emily Ruff then made these 10-minute videos on TikTok. Respectfully, unless it's All Too Well, 10-minute version, Taylor's version from the vault, I'm not watching that. She basically argued that it was unfair to generalize book talk, romance talk, hockey talk users, and essentially tar everyone with the same brush for the actions of the 1%. This 1% who take it too far, she said. And she calls what happened to the players the process of abstraction, which is basically where people stop seeing a public figure as a real person. And she uses Daniel Radcliffe as an example of this. He did some interviews on chat shows where he basically said that people would come up to him and just be like, "You're a terrible actor. Can I get a photo?" Like, they stopped seeing him as a real person because they were so used to the fact that he was Harry Potter and Harry Potter's not real. And what she's saying is that's how people started to view the hockey players, just as a character rather than a real person with real feelings. You know, a person who could feel discomfort at the way they were being sexualized. Now, in my personal opinion, she herself had actually been using TikTok to create fictional scenarios using real life hockey players. And she's doing that in order to sell copies of her book. I mean, look, you can be the judge of this. These are taken from her TikTok account.
Is there anyone interested in trading Oilers jerseys with me? Preferably for a smaller size. I ordered an XL because I'm usually an XL, but the way it fits got me looking like I'm fucking one of the players on the team.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
I have no comments on that.
So just imagine, if you will, that this is Jake, bored at practice. He's doing this and sending it to Rachel instead.
And so I'm not really sure if she includes herself in that 1% she was referring to or not, but you can make your own mind up on that. But I also don't think it would really be fair for her to take no accountability whatsoever. I'm intrigued by the future of the subgenre of TikTok. Has this kind of ruined its reputation forever? Can it ever redeem itself? Will these books continue to be published and be as successful as, you know, Icebreaker and Pucking Around have been? I do definitely think that it will be difficult for it to shake this reputation, just because it was kind of a subgenre, a subculture on Book Talk. A lot of us didn't even really know it existed before this scandal. And when you're...
Didn't know what existed? That Book Talk existed, or that hockey talk existed?
Your first impression of something is the scandal. It means that now whenever anyone mentions like Pucking Around, for example, people will be like, "Oh, the one from the Book Talk scandal where they were like over-sexualizing the players." You know, it's hard to shake that reputation once it's been established. Once a story hits the mainstream instead of being just part of that niche subculture, it will be tough to shake people's impression of the genre now. So we'll see what happens. Time will tell.
I'm thinking overselling that. That's it's, you know, it's a thing that happened, like a lot of things that happened, and when her next book comes out, it probably... Fans love stuff, and fans will figure out a way to bring more of what they love into their life. And those fans who bought her books are not going to stop buying her books because at one point things happened. I'm pretty confident about that.
Well, I guess. Let me know what you think about these books. Did you enjoy them? Have you read them? Are we right to give them a bit of stick? Like hockey stick? You get me? Did I miss anything? Let me know. Let's continue this conversation in the comment section down below.
So I gotta know now. So should I switch to hockey romance now that has this, you know, this bad thing happened in Hockey Round? Should I switch to it? Should my next sports romance series be about hockey? I don't know. Football is... there's just something about football. I do know that one of my best friends a while back, he was a hockey player growing up. And his argument to me was that you never see hockey players in scandals because they're like these kids from small towns, and, you know, they all have this sense of morality to them. Like, that was his argument. He grew up playing hockey, and he was comparing it to, like, you know, the NFL and NBA. And honestly, I don't know enough about hockey to like dispute that. But you tell me, are hockey players considered to be more like pure, or is it more of a, like, are they less complex human beings where, like, hockey, like, is this the image of hockey players for people who watch hockey? Are they, you know, just not good old boys, but like good boys? Like, is that the reputation of hockey players as opposed to like NFL players that are more, you know, it's different, or basketball players? And do you think this is just a fact, come from the fact that hockey is just not as popular? So it's hard for you to get all up in yourself when you play a sport that is less popular, because, you know, LeBron James is one of the most famous athletes in the world, or, you know, when there's a famous, like, Aaron Rodgers, or like any of the like super famous football players, when you become a famous football player, it goes more to your head. So I'm asking, is hockey players, are they this pure small town group of guys as a species, or is there something else going on? And should I make my next series a hockey series? So those are the questions. That's what I feel about Mr. Jack Edwards' video. I do like him. He's a very smart guy. At least, he, like, one of his videos, he talks about how to sound smart on YouTube, talking about books. He does sound smart. I think he's interesting to watch. He has great ideas. And I can't wait to react to the next one. Subscribe to my channel where you can see a lot of my own books there. I have my audiobooks on my YouTube channel. So far, there are like 35 of them or so. And I release new ones every 2 weeks. So please check it out. Please subscribe. And I'll talk to you again soon.